Hello, I'm Param Singh. Hope you guys are doing well. Let's attempt to design a function for the following problem, and in doing so, introduce the if-then clause that allows us to conditionally execute one of the two expressions. So the problem that we are going to solve is to return the last element of a non-empty list. So we start with the test cases again to save some time writing the tests, and these tests will eventually inform our final function design. So the first test is about an empty list. So here we have to make a decision what should be the output for this function called list last when there is no element in the list. So we are saying let's output nil for that. And then other tests are the one element list. So for a list containing the number 1, the output should be the element 1. For a 2-element list, it should be the second element, and for a 3rd-element list, it should be the 3rd element. So with this information, let's go back to our implementation, and we'll start with spec, and it's called list last, and it will take a list of any type T. So once again we'll use type variables, and it's going to produce one element of the same type, and that's why we are going to say T is a variable. So once we do that, let's write the purpose: return the last element of a non-empty list. Moving on to the stub, so we're going to define our list last, and in the stub it can be any kind of list, and let's produce one value of one type just so that we can run our tests. Okay, with the stub written, let's go to our console and run mix test, and our tests are failing, but that's okay. So left is 0, right is nil. We will go back to our implementation now and write the two clauses. Since it is a list, we have to have a base case, which is an empty list. And let's remove this 0, so we remember to come back and implement it. And a non-empty list is going to contain head and tail, and we're going to do something with head and list last of tail. So this second piece is our natural recursion, and the first piece is the head of the list. So let's go back to the first case, which is a base case, and what should be the result of a empty list. So that's given straight up by our first test case, that we are going to produce nil. So I'm going to simply write nil here, and moving on to the second case, let's think about it. What would identify an element as the last element? So it would be if the remaining list has no elements in it, right? So that means this tail, which itself is a list, if it is an empty list, that would indicate that HD is the last element. But if the tail is not empty, then we must continue to keep looking for it. So this is where now we have to make a decision whether tail is empty or not. And that's why we are going to use an if-then expression, and let's see how do we implement it. So first we are going to remove the colon and the comma because it's going to be a full do expression. If, right, some Boolean expression do, and here is your do and block. So we are saying we are going to use our previously created list length as the helper function. So if list length of tail equals 0, right, then the answer is head, right? If that is the case, then the answer is head, else we must keep looking. So list last of tail. So that's how we write our expression, and notice that we have used our HD and list last that were our ingredients. So I'm going to just remove them, and let's see. So this becomes our function implementation. So if the list length equals 0, then produce the head, and if it is not, then continue looking, meaning recursively call list last on the tail. All right, so let's see if this does the magic. Mix test, and our tests pass. So there you have it on how to use if-else clause to run one or the other expression. So if is followed by an expression, and if that expression results in a value of true, then we are going to execute statements or the expressions in the do block. And if that expression, the Boolean expression, is false, then we'll execute the else block. So that's how the if-else conditionals are used. So the key idea to keep in mind is that when you have two choices and you have to choose one, so there is a binary choice, then if-else clause is a good fit. But before I let you go, let me propose a challenge problem, that can we convert this function where we don't have to rely on the if-else clause. So think about it, try to solve it, and in the next video we will try to solve it together.